Hey, today I will be showing you how to change the strings on a guitar, and I just so happen to be changing the strings on my bass guitar, so I'll use that as our example. But bass guitar, acoustic guitar, electric guitar, the concept is really all similar. There's a couple of differences with like the tuning pegs and sometimes the direction at which you'll wind the string, but I'll go over that. And yeah, so the first step really is to remove the strings. And if you have some sort of pliers like this, what I like to normally do is just kind of make sure that the tension is really loose, basically no tension at all, and the string is loose, and then you can clip them like that. And that's a quick way to get them off, or you can just unwind them all the way and just run the string back out of whatever's holding them through in the bridge here. I've already done that a few days ago, and after you do that, what you really want to do is take the opportunity to clean your guitar while you have the strings off of it. That's good to do every so often anyways. I like to do it every time that I change the string, or yeah, every time I change the strings, because you have access to all the different parts that are really difficult to get to when you have strings on the guitar anyways. So let's go ahead and get started. So this is a 5-string bass. So these are some pretty massive strings here. And I guess one thing to note is the strings have a certain thickness to them, a diameter, and that's known as the gauge. And so for any guitar that's not like a ukulele or banjo or something, you always have the higher gauge strings towards the top, lower gauge towards the bottom. And so that's one easy way to remember which order you put them on. And this one is a 135 for the highest gauge string and a 50 for the lowest gauge string. So this one is what I'm going to start with. Sometimes they'll be color coordinated and stuff too, and you can look at the pack and it will tell you. So gently unwind the string, and you'll have something like this. And in this guitar, every guitar is a little bit different. Sometimes you just kind of slide them through. Sometimes there's something in the back. In this case, I have these holes in the back. So what I'm going to do is slide this string all the way through here. All the way, and you want to make sure it's tight and all the way. Now, I like to keep a little bit of tension on it for a couple of reasons. One is if you don't have much tension, sometimes there could be some slack here, and when you're actually tightening the string to tune it, it will sort of snap, and it's not very fun, and it could actually break the string or damage the instrument. So you really want to keep a little bit of tension. Another reason is it actually stays in tune better if you keep the tension on the string while you're putting it on. I have found after many, many years of doing this that they actually stay in tune a lot better. So you'll see me keep tension on this the entire time. So now that I have the bridge side set up, I'm going to run this string all the way up to the tuning head. Now you see how my arm's kind of under here? I'm doing that because I want a little bit of space, because if you make it super tight, then this actually won't be as secured up here at the tuning head. You want this to wrap around at least once, and I'll show you that technique here in a minute. So you sort of clamp the string into place. And so what I like to do, again, take tension here, keep it tight, put my arm under it. And for this head, I'll try to move a little closer so you can see. For these, the string actually just falls right through this slit. This is kind of common with a lot of different bass guitars. On a lot of acoustic guitars or electric guitars, there'll be a hole that you slide through, and what you always want to do is just get this sort of lined up, sort of parallel with the string, and you would put it through the hole here if that's how your tuning heads were set up. In my case, I can just kind of lay it in, and again, I'm doing it with all this extra tension here. And so I like to just kind of start like that, and then I'm going to bend this string here at about 90 degrees, and I'm going to keep that tension on it and start to tighten. Now notice I'm tightening here counterclockwise, and you always do counterclockwise for the tuning heads or the strings that are on the top of the guitar head, and you do clockwise on the bottom. Otherwise it's going to look really bad and probably go out of tune. So here I'm going counterclockwise, and this is kind of the most important part. this first time around, I'm gonna actually put the string here over the top of where I ran it through the head. I'm gonna keep on tightening. And then after it gets about to this point, I like to kind of bend it another 90 degree up. And then I'm going to keep tightening here, and notice now I've laid it into the nut and I am tightening it from here. Now, this is super crucial. Once you get to this point, you want the string to go up under where you first looped it through. And what this does, as you'll see in just a moment, is it will actually cause the loose part of the string here to be clamped between the upper and lower part. So make sure that you don't trap your arm under there, which is easy to do when you're trying to keep the tension on. But yeah, so basically twist about like that, and then if you notice, about at this point where I ran the string initially through is between the top wound and the bottom wound, and I'm just going to keep on adding more and more to the bottom as I tighten from here. So keeping that tension on, and all I got to do is continue tightening from here, and you want to sort of lay it, make sure it's laying into the nut as you get it a little tighter. And also you want to make sure down here that it's sitting nicely on the bridge. In this case, it's sitting pretty well into place. And when you start, you know, one way to do it is to actually use a tuner while you're going and just try to go ahead and tune it immediately into place. You don't really have to do that. You just want some tension on the string, and then you can always kind of come back and tune it. But since I have this tuner here, I'm going to go ahead and put it on, turn it on, and I'm going to tune it. So for a 5-string bass, which is what this is, actually the low string here is a B. So I would tune this to a B. I think my tuner might be dying. Ah, there it is. So I'm going all the way, trying to get to B here. And actually, you'll notice as I do this, the string likes to stretch. So what's really, it's going to continue to stretch as you work with it for, you know, sometimes a couple of days, at least the first few hours. So really, instead of just trying to nail it on exactly a B in this case, I'm going to go a little bit higher, maybe to a C. And it is good to kind of play and bend the string some too, because as you do that, it'll stretch and stretch, and eventually it'll get past the point of where it's going to stretch the most, and it will be fairly consistently in tune, and all you'll have to do is just tweak it here and there. So right now I've got it about to a C, and it's going to continue to stretch. It'll probably go back out of tune to a B or lower, but that's okay because it will settle in. So boom, we just did one string. Let's do the next. So this is going to be my E string. I'm going to start by running the string through the bridge here. Okay, now that I've kind of gone through the steps, I can do it a little bit faster. Line up the tuning head with the string and make sure you give yourself a little bit of slack here, and go ahead and bend it at that 90 degrees and turn it, keeping the tension on it. If you don't keep the tension on it here, it can fall out of the tuning head, especially if you have the style that this bass is using, which is not a hole, but just rather like a slit that you put the string through. So you don't want that, but keeping the tension on it and then running this first wound around the top will keep it from coming out like that. And then now I'm at this point, I can kind of bend it back up at another 90 degrees and tighten. And you know, if you really don't like to hand tighten these strings like this, which I always do, you can get one of these tools that is a winder, and basically the way that works is you get one of these, you kind of put it on here. This isn't even really the right size for this guitar, so it won't even work, but you can wind it. I've never really been that much of a fan of it. I think it's better really to just do it by hand, and while keeping this tension on it here as I've done. So now I have this string almost all the way. and I'm just getting about, the 5 here of the other note. Gets me pretty close. And remember, these are all going to kind of go a little bit out of tune at first, which is why we want them slightly sharp. So for example, instead of E here, maybe I'll go up to an F, and here I'm actually a little bit above an F. So play, bend the strings. Okay, cool. So now that we've got that, I'm gonna go ahead and actually remove this tuner because it's gonna be a little bit in the way here. And I can use the other strings as a reference for the remaining strings to put on. So here we go. This is gonna be my A string. All the way through at the bridge. Keep the tension on it, line up the tuning head here. Give it a little bit of space so that it can be tightened. Tension on, twist. Just gonna wind it. And once it gets around to where the string is at, about 180 on the twist, make sure the string that you're still holding is over the top of that string that's running through. Then you can kind of pull it through, bend it 90 degrees upwards. And after the fact, I always clip these when I'm done, but you don't want to do that too soon because, well, something could go wrong. You might have to rerun the string, and you want to give yourself some space to work with. And now I'm at this point here. And again, I'm going to tighten it, running the string under the previous wind, which will clamp down on this part that went through, and that really keeps the instrument in tune much better. That plus keeping the tension on it really kind of ensures that this thing's going to stay in tune. It's already looking great, and I'm going to use my other strings as a reference. Each time going through, just kind of tightening up everything, because as you'll notice, it will detune slowly and slowly. Got 2 more to go. Run this through the bridge. Okay. Now, here's a crucial moment. I mentioned before that you always do counterclockwise on the tuning heads that are on the top of the head, and then clockwise the other direction. That kind of gives it like this sort of V pattern. If you notice on the acoustic guitar back here, notice how the strings kind of make this V, and that is so the strings aren't touching each other, and it also looks a lot better too, and it's easier to kind of deal with. So I've been winding counterclockwise. This time I am going to wind clockwise, keeping the tension on, making sure the end of the string does not pop out of the groove here. There we go. And then I'll go ahead and set it up for you. And then here we go under. Pull this through. Bend it up 90 degrees. And from here, it's a little awkward holding like this, but that's okay. Notice how I'm still keeping that tension on here. And I can sort of push the string down because now I want the second wind to go between the string that's poking out and the first line. So now it's going under here, which is going to line it perfectly so that when I get to this point here, going to start to go under this one. So that's actually reasonably tight, so let me just go ahead and get the rest away. And then make it a little tighter. Cool. All right, one more to go. This would be the G string, everybody's favorite string. Okay, it's coming through all the way. Everything's lined up nicely at the bridge. And then this one I need to turn so that the groove is lined up with how the string is going to initially come through. Just about like that. Put it through. That initial 90-degree bend on it. And then tighten clockwise. Okay. I'll set it up like this. So tightening clockwise, getting to the point where you need to be careful to make sure that the wind goes over the other string and the part that went through is under. I can bend that 90 degrees upwards, just like that, and that will keep it from wanting to sort of slide out as I go through. Then I'm getting down to the second wind here. On the second wind, keep that tension tight. I like to use my finger, and then run the second wind under the first one so that it clamps. You want to clamp it right between those, and now I'll just kind of put it on the nut and see, still keeping the tension on. That is really going to help. All right. Got it to a point.